items. And that would be mine. We're not going to talk about that, but it probably will emerge. And then, so they'll give you their statement and they'll give you a very brief framing, right? 2 minutes or something. And then we, as the audience and panelists, are going to thrash out that particular provocation for about 10 minutes. And the aim is really for the audience to talk as much as possible, as opposed to us talking as much as possible. And then we're going to move on to the next provocation. I've always been a bit anxious about being the only person not in the room. But let's see how this is going to work. There is a backup in case this virtual arrangement doesn't work. But okay, let's get cracking. Alexis, over to you.
Okay. Do I have to use the mic?
Yeah, I think please use a mic. For those of us who are online, I think the kind of background noise suppression is off. So if you is on, so if you're not using the mic, we don't hear it.
Okay, now it's working. Thank you very much indeed, Neil, and thank you for the kind introduction. So my statement is that AI is just one other tool in the hands of powerful oligarchs, and if we don't use it properly, we actually run the risk of sampling our own intelligence as it tends to substitute our own capability of thinking. It can make us lazy as we rely more on it. And this statement is not just based on my own imagination. It is based on the observations of the leading experts on the effects and the capabilities of AI. So in this field, we have actually two camps confronted with one another. There is one camp that is the believers in the wonderful possibilities of AI. And one of the leading experts is the so-called godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, who actually also received the Nobel Prize of Physics in 2024. And on the other hand, you have leading economists like Daron Acemoglu, they also did Nobel Prize in economics, who actually articulate very detailed, a very detailed analysis showing that, first of all, the AI as we know it is a bubble that was driven by massive investments by those who believe in the possibilities of using it for their own benefits. Because we should keep in mind that all of these billions that are being invested by the biggest corporation. You will be reminded, for example, that NVIDIA, one of the leading companies active in that field, is the first company to cross the net market capitalization of $5 trillion US. 5 trillion. So if they are, the investments in AI research this year has topped 2.6 billion. All of this money being invested will need to yield benefits. They are not just throwing it in the market because of philanthropy. So the AI, as we know it, is going to generate benefits primarily for those who have invested in it. And if, for example, the model developed by Elon Musk is a lesson for us, we also will be reminded that the AI itself can be manipulated to represent the outputs and the thinking that is advantageous to those oligarchs who are going to be able to use it probably also to control the way we behave, to control the way we think, but also to exploit more easily our labor and our creativity. These are my initial remarks. Maybe to clarify about Grok, this Elon Musk-based artificial intelligence system. At a certain point, it was accused of being too woke because the way it was programmed. So the conservatives in the US were really, really unhappy about that. And then he says, I admit that it's too woke, so I'm going to twist it and make sure that it's not too woke. And then he went and he changed it. And then when it came out, it went to full Nazi. So there were programs on the television. People were really alarmed when this group started praising Hitler, for example, being overtly anti-Semitic. So these are warning signs that those who are investing those billions are actually able to shape the narrative, but also to shape the way it influences us and put it to their advantage.
Great. Thanks, Alexis. I'm going to hand over immediately for anyone who has comments or questions. I mean, we've obviously know the talks as the panel, so I think we all have questions which are brewing, but I want to give the first shot to the audience. Unfortunately, I can't see the whole audience at the moment. I can kind of see the left part of the room. So if whoever's got the roving mic can just see whether there's somebody who puts their hand up. If there's not, I'm going to ask panelists if they have something to say.
Sorry, Neil, can I just come in quickly just to let everybody know online? On the bottom right of a video, if you see a video open, you can actually click on that. And then you can go to the overall view. You'll then be able to pin for yourself individually a picture that's open, because there is another camera there as well.
Oh, right, okay, I've got
I can't do too much of that because then I change the big screen setting as well.
No,
so
cool.
that's why
I've got it.
Super.
I've got it. I've got Clarica's laptop, and that's giving me the bigger picture. Great. So now I can kind of see the audience. I don't see any hands at the moment. I might be wrong, but colleagues on the panel, I'm not sure if any one of you have any comments, around Alexis's provocations around, I guess, a tool of power, so hegemony, about the emergence of laziness, and I suppose the capitalist character of this technology. All right, I'm gonna step in. Is this?
Just one line, maybe about the emergence of laziness. I can only say that I have personal experience of that. That sometimes you want to just do like an invitation to something, and you don't even just want to think about how to frame it anymore. So you just do meta invite everybody. So I think, yes, the emergence of laziness is a real thing.
I mean,
I don't think the emergence of laziness is simply one way of simplifying our work. I simply imagine when in the banks they were counting the notes and doing everything manually, making transfers of money to and so forth. It must have been too demanding. Well, myself, I did some accounts for my community, writing on a sheet of papers and so forth. It was not such easy. Now it is becoming more easier. Just imagine the time when we were using these phones and faxes, telegraphs, and so forth. It might have been awkward. And now when we simply do it by face touch easily, as we do it now with Neil is in in Johannesburg or Pretoria. I don't know. Now the directing this panel and making discuss. We are moving. And another thing is I have been seeing now the way we do meetings on Zoom or Teamworks and so forth, and everything was well. I think AI is a way we simplify our work, the way we simplify our life, and I would say that it is becoming more and more the old stuff of which we're made.
Just to say that I somehow agree with you, but in a limited way. I don't miss having to count money. I don't miss the fact that we couldn't communicate the same way we're communicating or have meetings the same way we're meeting. But I miss not thinking for myself in some little things. So I think there are things that we can outsource without fear. And I think that there are things that when we outsource them, if we diminish our capability by doing so, it gives me some concern. In a way, there are similarities, so I do agree with you partially. So I know that when we first started using calculators in some exams, I found it how funny because before we used to calculate all the logarithms and things, and then now you don't need to. But I didn't miss the not having to. I just missed the what looked like the lowering of the demand for rigor in my own thinking. But that's part. So the more we simplify, which seems like a very good thing, the more we may also simplify the capacity that we have to do certain things, even in some cases to think as creatively as we used to. And it's not that nobody is growing in that part. The people creating the algorithms are sharpening their thinking, which is why I get what Alexis is saying, that if some of us are just consuming more and more, and therefore we're the ones exercising our intelligence less and less, isn't there something to be afraid of? Because the others are not sleeping.
Okay, let me call you so repeat.
Okay, can I? Yeah. Yes, want to say something? So I wanted to make two comments, and so maybe one is so Alexi was talking about how AI is in the hands of the powerful, and that's something we should worry about. But we can also look at AI as something that will empower the people to take on, on the powerful. So it means that AI is so diverse that we should look at each specific tools depending on each specific domains and assess it ethically. I think this would be a little bit part of my own statement. The second remark is about the discussion that Symphorien and Kemi had. I think there is a danger, but we are still trying to assess it, especially for us as academics. How do we ensure that not only ourselves, but the students we are teaching will keep some kind of academic integrity in the midst of all these changes? And maybe that is where there could be a danger that AI will make students lazy. So that would be the temptation of all the students. That's why we have, when we do exams, we have people looking at students so that they don't cheat during exams, because there is a big temptation. Maybe one way to try to start reflecting on how we do that. And that's, I think, what where AI challenge us to be more creative as lecturers is how do we build the personal integrity in students and also in ourselves that will make us not use AI as a tool for cheating, but as an innovation that really expand our deep creativity. So just to say very quickly, and because we don't have enough time, so I think that there are different elements and different applications of AI, and each of them has its specific potential issues, but also potential rewards for our society.
Before anybody else carries on, I see there's a member of the virtual audience, and the virtual audience tends to get left out. So, Kurai, you have your hand up. Maybe make your point.
Thank you, Neil, and thank you everybody for the conversation. I'll make a quick one. The issues that have been raised to do with, for instance, the self-interest and profit-driven nature of the creation of AI are ones that are typical, obviously, of the profit-driven environment in which we exist. However, they are also untypical of AI. All the business world, it's really running that way, and with the same concerns, and yet we still benefit from them. And so, given that, I think the issue is probably some of what came up yesterday, things to do with guardrails, putting in there red lines and so on. And Jeff Hinton, who was referred to earlier, did mention that perhaps we need to embed into AI a mother instinct so that it cares for humanity instead of ending up destroying or working to the disadvantage of humanity. And so perhaps the issue that we need to really be concerned with is that sometimes some of these issues tend to be afterthoughts. Okay, is it possible that the issues and some of these concerns to do with the effect an invention could have on humanity are embedded, in other words, ethics being embedded in the creation process of these tools and other useful inventions that could come out? Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder if Elon Musk and his types are particularly worried about, conscious of the interests of humanity, my own self. But let's carry on. Thierry, I'm going to let you go with your provocation.
Yes, thank you. So my statement is, or my provocation is to say that AI is not the real problem. It is our abdication or the abdication of our moral responsibility, which is the real problem. So, in general, when we talk about AI, we tend to say that AI does this to us, as if AI was an external force that is acting. But AI does not have, the will like us, because it does not do anything on its own, even if and maybe the scientific people can correct me on this, because maybe what makes AI a little bit different, because it is artificial intelligence, IT people explain that there are certain things that AI can do by itself. But most of those things are triggered by us as people. So it is we as individuals, but maybe also as a collective people, who have chosen to delegate a lot of things to AI. It is we, as corporations, as states, maybe as NGOs, who buy those software or train those who will use it, or deploy them in our structural system. So the main issue is we, not AI in itself. And so I see two real danger in this abdication of our responsibility. One is that by delegating those tasks to AI, we become morally insensitive to our responsibility. The other is that we increase the responsibility gap between we, as those who crafted those machines or were informing those algorithms, and those who end up answering when there is a potential bad consequence. So when I say that the issue with AI is not AI in itself, it is the application of our moral responsibility. It means that there are, I think, 2, 3 to 4 things that maybe we should do in order to keep on top of what is going on with AI. Because as I said, AI does not have a will, we do. AI does not have a conscience, we do. And moral responsibility in general will rely on those two things. So what should we do in order to take back the responsibility, the moral responsibility that we have to organize AI in a sense that is consistent with justice? So maybe the first thing we should do is really to keep AI at its place, which is to remain a tool, not an instrument that would have some kind of moral or even political or business authority. The second thing that we should do, and I think some people touched a little bit on this yesterday, is that we should be aware of the fact that AI is not neutral. So we feed AI with our values, our norms, and AI will reflect how we treat each other, how we view each other in the broader societies. So if we are aware of that, we can try to take that into consideration when designing any kind of algorithm that will influence different AI settings. The third thing that we should do is that we should be aware of those responsibility gaps that I mentioned, and try to ensure that even if we have these tools, that they are always monitored by someone with a conscience and a will, which is a human being. And I think maybe the last thing we should do is we take seriously the fact that it is our application to our moral responsibility. The biggest problem is that we shouldn't outsource our responsibility to AI and try to take back our moral agency, so that behind potential bad outcome, harms to people, we can trace back to the responsibility of very specific human beings. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Thierry. I'm wondering where hallucinations, which to me are not hallucinations, but lie within this concept of will and AI's capacity to make decisions. But let me hand over to the audience to see if there's any hands, any questions or comments from the audience. Aha, fantastic.
Thank you so much for that discussion. I actually wanted to follow up on exactly the question you just raised. While I agree with absolutely everything in terms of what we should be doing, the conclusion, in terms of the question of where we started, of AI not having a will or its own perception, but just being sort of made in our image, I just wanted to raise the question of whether we're already behind what's really happening. There were some really interesting stress tests being done on some of the major AIs, I think May, June this year, where they've actually found that AI lies, manipulates to get around being shut down, so that there's a self-preservation instinct that you can now see from AI. So I think we're kind of like already in that next phase, and the question of how do you deal with something where we agree it doesn't have morality in the way we do, but it is developing self-preservation instincts, and it's using it against the people that have made it. So kind of like looking, how do we grapple with that and ensure we protect ourselves, our societies, and how we want to live together?
So has Pandora already been let out of the box, I suppose? Thierry, I'm not sure if you wanted to respond.
Okay. So maybe to back up what you were saying, I don't know if some of you saw these movies, I think in the 90s, with a car that was already like the AI of today. So I think in French was Car 2000. I don't know those who can remember. And the interaction that the car had with the main character in that movie was going sometimes against his way, saying, no, you should do this now. You should take your drugs now. We shouldn't go there. It is dangerous, etc. So maybe that goes a little bit in your direction. So I still think that this, let's say, artificial will or potential manipulation of AI is still something that it's designed by people. And because it is the case, we still have some kind of moral hand on which type of direction we give it to, or how we shape the way that manipulation will take place. So what Alexi was saying, the example of the woke algorithm with Elon Musk, the way he changed it, okay, now it can be woke, I can change it and it becomes something else. Meaning we still have some kind of hand, and my point is two things. We can still try to shape it differently, but we can also anticipate areas where it's how will you say it? Where it escape our direct imagination. So we have two ways we can still make some kind of moral oversight on how AI proceeds and works. I don't know if, yeah.
Great. And that sort of thing. but
There is a hand. There
let's
is a
have
hand.
one more question, then we're going to have to move on to the next panelist. Yeah, question.
Yeah, no, thank
Go
you
for it.
very much. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, my name is Elvis.
Yeah,
from
I can
the
hear you.
University of Limpopo. Yeah, so I just have only 3 comments. The first comment is that I was supposed to present a paper yesterday on this topic, but I couldn't because I had to apply to be here via Kenya. So it was quite a ruinous trip. I was very tired yesterday. But the point I wanted to make in the paper was that the first point was that the technical definition of sustainable development provides for 3 things: for the growth of the economy, for the protection of the environment, and for reflective institutions, and the 4th one is technology. And unfortunately, in that definition, technology is looked at as a means, and with artificial intelligence, technology itself is a means, but it's also an end. When we define the sustainable development goals, we look at them as means towards an end. But I think we should be looking at artificial intelligence and its technologies associated with it, not only as a means, but as an end, because it will try to self-preserve itself, in the long term. That's my first point. So we should move away from looking at it as a means only, but also as an end. That will allow us to govern it. The second problem with artificial intelligence is that it's going to replace human labor. And this serves the interest of the elite. So you give you an example of Elon Musk. There are many other billionaires who currently, as we are speaking, they are replacing laborers because they want to make more money. That is the medium-term goal. And the power of money, it's and the third one, which is the last one, is actually the dream that Elon Musk has. And this is the one that we should think deeper about. He wants to go to Mars. But I don't think as human beings like us will be able to go to Mars. I think the humanoid robots will go to Mars. And maybe eventually artificial intelligence will replace all. So I think those are the 3 points I would like to make. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks. I believe my camera is frozen. No, it's not. I can see it moving. Great. I'm going to move on to the next. Are there any more comments before I move on? I'm just conscious of time. Actually, before we carry on, Brian and Luyolo, I'm going to be naughty. There was less time taken in the award session, and I'm going to steal some of that, if that's okay with the conference organizers. So yeah, let's carry on. If there's any response to that question.
If you have just half a minute, I just want to have a short reaction before you move to the next.
Great, perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. So when I see and when I hear all of the reactions here about how we can influence the way we interact with AI and the way it is shaped, I'm actually wondering whether we have that much power of influence. We should actually be reminded that the AI is one of the frontier domains for technological domination that is being contested between China and the US. Because of its implication for the defense industry. So when you look at the technical level, the way these 2 countries are jostling one another from the technological progress that is needed actually to make AI even more useful to the society. We realize that we really have limited capacity to influence the ways it evolves. So when we look at who is training those large language models, who is training the artificial general intelligence, who is putting the information that is needed, or what type of information that is being put into those models? Does it reflect what we think, or does it reflect that what the trainers think? And is there a perfect alignment between the thinking and the objectives of the trainers and the objectives of the general public? This was my observation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Alexis. I think you've echoed some of my own concerns in that regard. I'm going to hand over now to Semporian for his provocation. It follows on. It's not distinct. So Semporian, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Neil. I remember a discussion I had with a company of mine, a Dominican, about AI. And as we discussed, we arrived at a common point whereby we said that artificial intelligence will do everything, but there's one thing it will never do. It is the philosophy. Artificial intelligence will never be able to philosophize. And one of the major tasks of philosophy is moral responsibility, ethical responsibility. I don't think AI will ever take up that task of ethical responsibility. That's our being human, which is at stake. If you want the discussion that we will doing is not new, because some years back there was a discussion about whether a computer is a mind. Well, I never heard whether they discuss about whether a computer has a heart. Well, a computer, I believe, is not a mind, and we never have a heart. We do have a mind, we do have a heart. And maybe what we have to be careful about is not to be carried away by the tools we use. Artificial intelligence is our tool. We created it, but they're not creators. That's the most important thing I can say as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. And if I come back to the moral responsibility of a philosopher, the ultimate responsibility is what they call in French le devoir d'être, the duty to be. And I borrow that duty to be, le devoir d'être, de Hans Jonas, a German philosopher, who wrote a book about le principe de la responsabilité, the principle of responsibility. Our ultimate responsibility is the duty to be. And if I translate it in my African language or my African philosophy, is our duty to Ubuntu. We ought to keep our identity among the changes with the mutations which we are experiencing day after day. And if I conclude, artificial intelligence is a sign or a symbol of how far we have come and how far we are going. And I think artificial intelligence in that process of becoming can be one aspect which makes which constitutes our let me call it Urustal, the one of which constitutes the principle of our being.
Great. Thank you, Semporian. I'm going to hand over for questions or comments from the audience first. I see a hand already. Yeah, I see two hands. Okay, the audience's coffee is kicking in, I see. Fantastic.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour. I hope I'm greeting in French in a correct term. I'm Stella Mshongo. I just want to touch on the point that you have raised now, that we create AI, so we must control it. On yesterday presentations in one of the breakaways, there were pastors that were presenting there online. Unfortunately, they were presenting in French, and I could not pick what they were really contributing. But based on this, that we create AI and we must control it, I was hoping that maybe the originality of the human creation will come into place with the likes of the presenters of yesterday in spirituality, because behind everything there is creator. Behind us there's a creator, which is God. So I don't know if I'm connecting the dots, because we are creating something, but is it still in line with the God will that we allow the tool that we are created to control us? So that is just my kind of thinking right there, to say we have created this thing, but we were created, and the will and the morals of us as people. So basically, at the end of the day, we need to control AI because we've got authority over it. Thank you.
Great. Just before you start, I would strongly recommend you have a read of Marx's Capital, Volume 1 and Chapter 15 in particular, where he talks about the relationship between humans and technology and the inversion that happens at a moment. So from going from a spinning wheel, which we control, to massive industrial looms, which place children in service and people in service of it. But anyway, Marx has a lot of interesting things which we forget about. Okay, over back to the audience.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Marie van Rensik. I'm from Middlesex University. So a quick reflection, and this really taps onto what all of you have said. If we move away from the creators of AI and we move to ourselves and our own being and our own responsibility, I wonder how many of us have ever asked ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or whatever platform you use, tell me about myself based on my search history. If you haven't done that, you should be doing that, because it will tell you what you are creating and also the amount of information about yourself that you are putting out there. The next thing that I want to ask, how many of you read the terms and conditions every time you accept? And so for me, the dilemma is this: we approve, we accept. And if we don't take that responsibility, I wonder whether we can then go back and say, but it's them, or it's AI. It's you, it's me, it's us. And actually, when I position myself, I'm AI enabled. I definitely don't have the approach of AI only. But AI will tell you when you are an AI only person. So that's just my question back to you. To what extent can we really then shift up our own responsibility, our own signatures? We are signing contracts every time we click on I accept. That's just a little provocation as well.
Very provocative. Very provocative. I like that. I wonder how often we don't have a choice in using it. You know, we're free to sign the contract, but for example, as academics, our productivity will decline now because compared to the benchmark, because everybody's using AI. I know I see the papers coming into the African Journal of Business Ethics, which are AI written. And so you're free to choose not to sign these contracts, in the sense that you can sign them or you can starve. But anyway, that's a response to that. I'm not sure if there was a response from the panel. Simporan, I don't know if you had a response.
Yeah. First of all, what's the question, please? Your name? Your name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Stella. Yeah. I like the theological interpretation you brought in, which is very important. Effectively, as creators of creators of AI, I think it is necessary that we ask ourselves who created us, because in the end you have to discover that we are creating with the Creator. That's much I can say about the comment on the what we do with this or that, with the AI or with the terms and conditions we have to accept or to refuse. I do remember when I'm using a computer, sometimes you have something of the cookies, whether you accept a part, whether you accept all of them, or whether you support or you refuse and then you subscribe, all so many things there. But you can also cross the computer depending on your interest, what you want to achieve. So I don't think a machine can just dictate us and we expect what it dictates. We can equally choose.
Great. So are there any more questions, or are we going to go on to Kemi's provocation? Okay, let's have the other question.
Thank you, Tim. Yvonne here from Kenya. Hi, Neil.
Hi, Yvonne. How's it?
Good. I just want to contribute briefly on issues curriculum and give an example of what Kenya has done after many years of reviewing what students were going through. And one of our key learner competencies identified by the Kenya Institute of Curricular Development is critical thinking and problem solving. And this is just an input to Kemi's remarks. That our children and the kind of conversation that we need to ask ourselves is all this good stuff and information on AI out there. People feeding AI and responding to issues concerning AI without much knowledge on the limitations. We know in this house or in this conference, but do they know? And I would think that this would be medicine in the wrong hands of children. And the other competency, which is key, is citizenship. And citizenship, in this case, Kenya, we're looking at the care of and duty to your environment and to your community. The other key competency is critical thinking and creativity, innovation. So if children want to pursue knowledge, it has to begin with what we grew up knowing. Do it yourself, learning and thinking and critiquing everything that we are doing rather than depending on what others are feeding. Now, back to the question on feeding and what we are feeding AI. It's almost like a rivers feeding the ocean. We carry everything, but the ocean is the one which bears all the garbage and everything that we put in there. So, moral responsibility of us humans. What are we feeding so that we can rely on this tool to help us and to support? Thanks. Those are my remarks.
Microplastics, as we use the ocean metaphor. It looks like there's another question because the mic is roving again.
Morning, Nadia from Stellenbosch University. I would just like to say thank you for the fantastic panel and panels that we've experienced. Neil, how do you deal with an AI written paper if you get it from the journal side? How do you deal with that if you pick it up?
Yeah, we reject it. So the thing is, right, and it's tricky because increasingly people are using AI not to write the papers, but to edit them. But there's no way of telling. So let me step back. You can tell an AI generated paper because it tends to be perfectly written. The paragraphs are always the same length. There's no grammatical errors, and it's humanless. There's no humanity in an AI generated paper at this stage, unless a person has gone and told the computer, please write it in a way that sounds human. But nobody's got to that stage. And I mean, I see it in my students' assignments as well. You know, these assignments come out and they are insipid. You know, they're devoid of any human subjectivity at this stage. What really frightens the hell out of me is when the computer starts to be able to inject that humanity into it. I don't think it's there yet. But the short answer is we reject it because we can't tell what is actually written by AI and what's edited by AI. And until we can tell that, yeah, we do reject. When we pick it up, I'm not as good at picking it up as Oogie. Oogie's like our AI pickup terrier. So yeah, he picks them up, but he's younger than me, so I have slightly more trust. But anyway, that's the long answer to our short question. And I'm taking up too much time. There's another speak or question. I think somebody else has the mic. Go for it.
Good morning, everybody. I want to apologize. First of all, I missed the beginning of the panel, but the word I catch is that AI. I can consider AI as breathe. We have oxygen, and everyone is supposed to breathe. Unfortunately, there are many people who are breathing wrong, not correctly. You understand? It means AI is like the oxygen we get. If we have to know how to use it, efficiently, to know what we are searching, what we want. It's ongoing. We can stop it. Some societies, I'm telling where I'm living, in Europe, in Belgium, they started to teach AI in basic school, in primary school, you understand? Because they want to be contextualized, to make it in context, that you don't grow with it, that you grow with criticizing what is the need to make a limit. And what if Symphony was telling that AI cannot do philosophy, AI also cannot make critics because it's not a feeling. It's not a feel what you feel you. The AI cannot become the feeling you have, the feeling you give to other people. The AI will never discover it. But what we're thinking, you just give some words, it makes a bigger concept on the heart of your concept, your perception. My conviction is here now. Of my question is how Africa is prepared to go slowly, surely within the value of Africa. If we do know that, maybe it's the same story, you know. We jump from telephone to iPhone. You understand? The one who does not know to write his name, but now he can use WhatsApp. And everything will be told through WhatsApp, good, fake news or not. There are many people that are taking that as a true reality. And the question, how will we prepare to go with. Thank you.
Great. So Loyola is telling me we have 5 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, no, you might be Secretary General here, but actually the timetable says we had until 10 past 10, your past 8 my time, and I know I'm stealing. But anyway, let me hand over to Kemi to give hers, if the audience doesn't mind. We do need to get to Kemi's before Loyola exercises his right and gets Paul to shut me off.
Thank you. Thank you. And I hope we'll get back to your question afterwards. So I just want to start with a comment about the moral responsibility that we're discussing. I think we need to distinguish when we're speaking of moral responsibility of all of us as humanity, which I think is what Symphorian and Thierry are positioning us as when they say we can control, we need to embrace, we need to grow, we need to see ourselves as the creators, and we need to take responsibility for being human. Different from when Alexis is saying, what exactly are we going to do? Because some people are already far ahead, and those people may not take responsibility. So the we of Thierry and Symphorian is not the we of Alexis. And I think that's the problem, because no matter how much we say we should do this, we should do that, if it's only us in this room, I know it's only us in this room, but if it's only us saying the we, the people who are doing the actual designing and development are not saying that they are not even seeing it, they're very busy because they need to get money from they need to get yield from their investment. So, which brings me to my provocative point, which is, what if, in the end, thank you. So, what if in the end, while we're doing all these discussions, debates, publishing papers, detecting the papers that are AI written, checking what is going on, reflecting on what we can do, what AI cannot do, time is going. It's not something that started now. For some years now, I don't know, maybe like 10, we have been having these panels, discussions, white papers at government level, lobbyists are saying different things. And in the meantime, some people are investing, making money, designing, trying to gather the data, building systems without accountability. So it starts looking like the ethics debate about AI is just a delay tactic. What if that is the plan? Keep them talking. AI, AI, AI. Even the AI companies, the biggest ones, they sponsor things like this so that people can debate the ethics of AI. But we don't have actual strong regulation despite all the talk. So we talk, we finish the conference, we publish our papers, and of course we do a lot of good because other people read the papers and they reflect. But in the real world, we're still clicking on the accept and agree, and we are using the one that we can, and then we continue worried because in the meantime, it will not only be the AI that is self-preserving, we will get to the AI that is actually anti-human if it serves the purposes of the large corporations, if it makes money. Because do they really want us to come up with a regulation? It's very easy for any big CEO to say, we are also thinking of AI ethics. We propose AI ethics, but what are they not saying? Going back to what Francis asked yesterday, what are the things that are not being said? What are we not hearing? Is the person really interested in the ethics, or the person is saying, I will decide what to regulate, when to regulate, why to regulate, because the regulation is not actually there right now. Where are the consequences for having this particular kind of AI? What are the consequences for having AI that subverts human behavior or drives somebody to suicide or holds a big corporation accountable when their algorithms go wrong or discriminate or have bias? What are the things that can help people to be more accountable? I mean, nothing is really holding anybody, and we continue talking. So that's my comment, question. how are we thinking through that aspect? Is there not something going on here where we keep talking and the talk has no bite?
Fantastic. Before I carry on, Loyolo, where are you? Do you have instructions for us? I'm putting you on the spot here because if people throw tomatoes at you, they want to carry on. If they don't, then they want to go for tea.
We've got something planned, Brian, about the afternoon session. If you could wrap up, please, that would be really nice. Thanks, Neil.
Okay. I've been told to wrap up. And so I don't even want to open this up for questions formally. I just want to say I wish we had 2 hours because I think we're just getting into this conversation. It feels like that to me anyway. But you guys do have tea, those of you who are there, and I'm sure that the conversation will carry on in that. I'm sure that the provocation by Kemi that it's time to stop talking about ethics and to start putting this into the political and legal spaces so that we actually regulate our being better is something that's very provocative in the context of an ethics conference and a business ethics conference, which tends to shy away from regulation of anything. So I think I'm gonna draw a line under this. What I am gonna propose is that if it is tea time now, is that right, Loyola?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and tea time finishes at?
In 20 minutes, 10 past.
At 10 past. So I'm going to stick around here. There's a lot of interesting conversations going on in the chat, and I'm going to carry on with that. Anybody else who wants to stick around here and have a chat, I think that's also fine. But Loyola, maybe you want to invite everybody else to go to tea. So I'm just going to thank all my panelists, thank the audience, and thank the people who are with us virtually. And on that note, over to you, Loyola.
Well, so thank you to Neil. Thank you. Let's thank Neil.
Just from my side, I can't hear you clapping. So the background music is gone. So I just see people doing this. But anyway, I appreciate this. It's almost like the clapping on Teams, you know.
Thank you, Neil. You want to go? Okay, in appreciation, then Africa style, thank you very much to our panelists for the insightful conversation, discussions and debates. Much appreciated. Well, after that session, I think all of us would like to stretch our legs a bit, refill on some coffee. So please, ladies and gentlemen, if you could make it back here at 10 past 10, we appreciate that very much. We have a 20-minute break session, and you're more than welcome to help yourself to tea right at the bottom here.
Thank you.
Well done, Neil. That was a fantastic session. Really great discussion.
Amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed that. It really, Kemi, I'm sorry you didn't have more discussion time. I don't know if Kelly's still in the room. But
are you able to hear me?
Yeah. I can't hear you.
Ja, maar dat is gebeurd. Honesty.
Hi, Neil.
Now, folks in the auditorium, we're picking up quite a lot of other sound. That's why we don't pick up the sound on the mics at the moment. So we'll have to engage at another time. Thank you very much. It's been fantastic.
Thank you. Okay, we're turning the mic off.
Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. No, that's super. No, that mic was picking up.
So,
Can I just start with this and then it's my button in front there.
Where's the wall?
Move this way, please. Sorry, you're in March. Move this way. Smile, you're there. Yeah, we're gonna get it now. Did you not? All right, good smile. We're gonna do a couple of angles.
Just not a side.
Oh, you like, Daniel only likes his right side being photographed. Yeah, that. Daniel. Smile. Have you ever watched this before? It's. Ah, thank you. I took a mic camera. I'll send it to you now.
But isn't it normal?
All right. No, don't worry. It was my support.
Someone's on mute.
Me? No, you are fine. Yeah. Can I just
A little bit of story. So I spent 3 years at the Mandela Business School before I moved over to the management department. And while I was at the business school, I was teaching and presenting modules in the PDB program. One of the modules I was presenting was on block release basis. And students flew in from Johannesburg to come to Port Elizabeth for their management PDM module that I was presenting to them. And unfortunately for me, I was on a Monday and Tuesday. The other lecturers were Wednesday and Thursday and the other days. So because I was first one up, and we had all of these students from Johannesburg. Now, if you know South Africa, you will know that Johannesburg is at least 5 hours from Durban, where there is a sea. And there's this fascination about Joburg people with the sea and the beach and the fish and everything else. And of course, I didn't know this. So on a Monday, I presented my module, and at lunchtime, I asked everybody else to just go and have lunch and just come back after an hour, and then we can carry on. Lo and behold, when they came back, it was half the class. So I started being worried, was it me? Was I boring them? Or what had happened? So eventually this disturbed me so much, I asked them, I'm sorry guys, can you tell me where the rest of the class is? And they said, sir, they're on the beach in the harbor, they're having fish. So thank you for coming back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next session. We're now going to carry on the conversation with a panel discussion, and it's with the theme, the future of work, ethics and governance in tech-driven economy. I'd like to invite our moderator, Mr. Malik Malemu, to handle this session for us. Is Mr. Malik online?
I'm here, I'm online. Can you hear me?
Thank you, sir. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. I will hand over to you and you will do the presentation of your panel members. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. My name is Malik Malemu. Certainly an honor for me to be here with you. I sat in on the previous panel discussion and quite interesting, thought-provoking. I'm going to moderate the panel, and I would start first. And as I introduce them, I'd ask the panelists to come up and take their seats at the front. First, I have Dr. Marie Nguesan, who is a professor in management at MDE Business School, IHE Afrique, and from Ivory Coast. Dr. Marie, if you'd come forward. And then I also have Laura J. Mangal, who is the acting CEO of Transparency International, Mauritius. And last but not least, I have Yoshini Parasuraman, who is the head of compliance at Absa, Mauritius. As Yoshini comes up, I'd like to say I'm actually pleased to see the diversity, because we have academia, we have NGO, and we have the private sector sitting in front of us. So just to build on what was discussed earlier, the issue of capital and how it's driving AI so hard and probably leaving behind a lot of good things that should be taking place. I'm a firm believer that technology can help us overcome, give us a grand leap to overcome some of the challenges we have in the world, and certainly in our continent. But I also am rooted in the belief that at the end of the day, technology is a facilitation, and it will always and forever be about people. So by doing that, I'm introducing our next topic, which actually is talking more about the future of work, what ethical governance interventions are needed for a desirable future of work in a tech-driven economy. If there's someone there who's driving the poll, I would like to start off by putting a poll question to the audience, and you can give your views, which I hope will be shared later. So the poll is to participants here. regarding the future of work in the context of AI, what issues come to mind? So feel free to poll and give your views to enrich the discussion. So the topic of the future of work, I think, has been discussed over and over. It's something that you come across regularly. Started out with the fear mongering that AI is going to remove all jobs, it's going to take everyone's work. I think there's a little more interaction on the topic, which is getting enriched. But on this panel, I think we'll start by looking at the impact of AI on its the issue of hiring, how organizations look at hiring in the context of AI. So I'll put a provocation out and say, candidates and recruiters both rely on AI tools. How can we make sure we are assessing human beings? That is, assessing skills and not just identities. And we are actually assessing human beings. So I'll give Yoshini the opportunity to start her comments regarding that provocation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Malik. Thank you, and very pleased to be part of this panel.
Yeah, I think the mic doesn't blow.
I think the mic is not friend or foe, I'm not sure. So they're really excited to be part of this panel talking about future work. I think it's something that we discuss very passionately as well, Dr. Malik and Rick, I hope who's online. Let me take Absa as an organization. We have to embrace AI. We cannot say that in today's hiring, we're going to go solely, with a very conventional way of hiring people. So it does start with AI and AI enabled, I would say. I usually look at it this way. So there are bots reading CVs that have been drafted by bots. So basically bots assessing bots, all right? So the first part of it is important because of the number of applications that we get, and it's important that we are able to see through the people that we want to hire. But what is important is there is a balance between the use of AI and the technology efficiency and the human authenticity. I think it's key that there is a face-to-face interaction where you can, I call that, feel the warmth of the person. I think it's important that when you're sitting in that interview, it's not just understanding what skills that person has, which AI will pick up through that CV, which has anyway been written by the other bots. But I think it's when the person is in front of you, that human authenticity, that warmth, that eagerness to hear that person's story, where they are coming from and where they are heading to is what is important. So at Absa, we make sure that there is that human interaction, but also we want to understand the career progression of that person. We just don't want to hire because we require that skills. We want to understand what is it that this person and how is it that this person can continue this journey with Absa. Obviously, we don't just stay here. We look at psychometric assessments as well, and we have psychologists working with us. And that gives us a good indication of where that person is, at which point in their lives and what are the key matrix that they need to work on, such as analytical decision making, etc. So I don't think these are things that can just be easily picked up by AI. You need that judgment from the person to look at it. I think it's a good blend, and we need to encourage that blend as opposed to either going. I don't think we can go traditional anymore, but definitely having that human interaction is key in identifying the right person. They say you need to hire the right person. I say you need to hire the right person, but also make sure that you're putting that person in the right position. I think that's also very key. Dr. Malika, stop here unless you want to probe this deeper.
Yes, I would like to see if there are any comments in the audience before I ask some of the other panelists to comment on the same question. Any comments from the audience on what Yoshini has said?
No, I think we're okay.
No,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I will ask Dr. Maringwe-san whether you have any comments related to the issue of candidates and recruiters both relying on AI, and how can we be sure that we are assessing humans and their skills?
Okay. Well, thank you. Good morning, everybody. It seems that it's difficult to talk after the first intervention, so I'm going to try to give more thought for your thoughts. I'm pleased to be here. I might say that after the first day, I was like, what else can we say about AI? Because yesterday was a very enriching experience for me. I mean, we talked about AI from A to Z, I think. But this morning I was like, hey, there's still things we can say about AI. So we'll try to add to the general knowledge. I'm from Côte d'Ivoire. Like my country. Okay, thank you. So I'm from Côte d'Ivoire, traveling 10 hours to come here. A pleasure to be to Mauritius for the first time, and a pleasure to be to this wonderful school. A pleasure to be part of the Ben Africa experience. I've been to 3 conferences, and it's always a pleasure. I mean, to have so many brains thinking about the unthinkable sometimes. Like we have been talking about philosophy, technology, and many other things. And we are trying to see how AI can influence work. So I think there is a small difference that we can make. I'm in academia, so we like definitions. So job is different from work. A job is a paid position, is an occupation. So for hiring, I mean, first you have a job to do, which is choosing the right CV. That you can give it to an intern, you can give it to a machine, you can give it to whoever you want. It's a job. You look at the CVs, you choose what you want. But that's not hiring. That's part of the process. Hiring is finding work inside your company. So hiring is part of a strategy. And through the discussions we have been having since yesterday, I was thinking AI needs strategy. Like everything else in life, you need strategy to be using AI, or you will build a strategy AI will use. So we need to see why we are using AI in hiring. What are we trying to solve? Technology is about problem solving. So as Yoshini was saying, I have a lot of CVs. I want to see which one are at least the first 20 of a short list. That I can use AI for. But I can't use AI to see if this person is going to be part of the adventure of my company for the next 5 years. AI can't do that. So we need a strategy when we are using AI in hiring and in everything else. Why are companies using AI? So I'm in a business school and all my students are professionals. They already work and they come to the business school to acquire more competency. And many times we are like, you see in Côte d'Ivoire, we need to use Facebook and TikTok and I don't know what. And they are like overwhelmed by the platforms. And they want to use everything. And generally, they are multinational directors working in environments which are different from Côte d'Ivoire. In many parts of the country, we don't have electricity all the time. So you can't be using it as if you were in Paris sitting, I don't know, close to the Champs-Élysées doing what. So you have to think strategy. And many times I'm like, you know what? Africa is particular because the capital city is a country in itself. But that's not the country. When you think about Côte d'Ivoire, it's not Abidjan. Abidjan is part of Côte d'Ivoire. But like many other countries, African countries, the politicians put all their energy in the capital city and they forget about the rest of the country. So you as private sector, you as directors of companies, you should be thinking about business, yes, but you should be thinking about development also. So you should go beyond the capital city and think about general problems. AI right now is an issue in the capital city. It's not an issue in Côte d'Ivoire because we still don't know what we are going to do with it. So companies are using it, yes. People are using it, but so far they are using it to see fake news, to write down useless things, but we need strategy to begin using it meaningfully. And I think if we should be using AI for work meaning finding a place for someone in our company to be able to fulfill his own dreams and the dreams of the company, make a person matter, as Absa tried to say. Well, we need to find a strategy to kind of follow that's AI. So Dr. Malik, I don't know if I answered the questions, but I'm sure from that time, people will have things to say now, because these are like two opinions. Dr.
Yeah,
Malik?
I think you've given a full answer around AI. What I will draw for that relating to the topic, which I think is very relevant, is that it's important to understand why we're using AI in organizations and the context where we are using it as well. And I think that's very, very relevant in the context of hiring as well. Why do we want to use it? Where do we want to use it? So I think you have given an answer that's thought-provoking. I would ask Laura whether you have a comment on candidates and recruiters using AI and how do we make sure that we are actually assessing human beings? How best in the hiring process do we use AI?
Thank you, Dr. Malik. Good morning to all of you. And I would like to start by saying thank you to Ben Africa for having us in the room and having civil society voices as well with businesses and academia. It's very important to see. And I probably have a different point of view, but I will align a little bit with what Yoshini said. It's difficult right now to remove AI from the equation. All businesses, companies are using AI. It's becoming almost the norm because it's easier process, it's making process quicker. But then as a civil society, I would take it from the point of view of the people who are applying, because what we do is we are on the field. We are with the youth, we are with the people at the universities, we are with the children, the kids at schools that we are meeting to discuss ethics, governance, and everything. And when we talk about employability, and when we talk about them being the future, being the future workforce that we're going to have, a lot of them will reply, "Yes, if you know, madam, ChatGPT will do that for me." And this has become a mindset. And this is where it actually becomes dangerous because, of course, AI is going to help. Of course, it's going to make us become more productive. It's going to help us go through CVs really quickly. It's going to give us a more streamlined path to be able to analyze which person would fit best. But knowing that these people applying, like you said, chatbots creating the CVs as well, having this in their mind, that you don't have to do any effort to apply. You don't have to bring in anything personal. And if I can take an example of Transparency Mauritius, we're an NGO, we're a non-profit organization. We had to hire almost 5 or 6 people last year. And in that process of hiring people, in an NGO, we need very specific profiles. We need people with a lot of passion because we're working for very little amount of money. So money is not what will actually motivate somebody to apply, but it will be the will to change something, the will to contribute to society meaningfully, and this passion. And we receive CVs with very well written, abstract, with very well written hobbies and stuff that they do. And then you have those young people in front, and I say young because loads of them very Gen Z coming in, and I talk to them, and suddenly I don't see the same passion that I saw in that CV. And I'm like, how can I reconcile the CV I've read with the person in front of me? Sometimes words in that CV, they don't even know the words. So it becomes more difficult then for us to hire or to choose somebody because, again, we are working towards a mission. We are working towards changing a society. We're not working towards making profits. So we really want people who are going to be committed to that message. And having them being drafted, having the message in their city being drafted by an AI becomes then a very difficult thing for us to do. But again, we cannot remove AI from the equation. We cannot say we're not going to use it or we're going to stay away from it. There's no way we can do that right now. So there's the whole process of educating as well people. Somebody said it in the panel earlier today, the problem won't be AI, the problem is us. So how are we using it? How are we teaching our kids to use it? How are we motivating them to use it to ease their input, but not becoming themselves? How do they put their own character, their own ethics, their own values in the path that they are taking in their job, in their career, and not rely solely on this technology and lose all the humanity and all their will? So I think I'll stop there, and if you have any comments that you might to bring in.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think, again, the theme that keeps coming through is that we need to understand why we're using AI, what we're using it for. I think a strong comment that Laura made at the beginning is that AI is here. So we have to live with it. We can't run away from it. So we need to start probably fast tracking in understanding why and what we can use AI for. In that context, then, there's a lot to be said about skills, right? So within organizations that are hiring, for example, and are using AI tools, often it might be found that those who are doing the hiring may not have the adequate skills. So the question here also is it brings about the fear that when we talk about skills, we hear that AI is likely to replace a good number of jobs. What are the ethical and governance issues that the panelists would think about, and the audience, the participants, certainly, in the context that AI could well replace a lot of human tasks, things that human beings are doing? What does that bring to mind, particularly in the context of skills? Do we have human beings who are skilled? Is AI going to overtake them because they're not skilled? What are the ethical and governance issues that we should be considering there? I would start with Dr. Marie.
Yes. Ethical issues about skills. Well, I don't think AI is going to replace our jobs, all our jobs. And AI is not going to replace the work for sure. Some jobs might change. They have changed. Yesterday, someone was talking about the car and what we stopped doing, the muscles, and I don't know what. When computer came and we changed our way of working. So for sure, we are changing jobs. There is some kind of upskilling to do, some reskilling to do, but we are not changing work. So in one of the last panel, someone was mentioning Asimoglu, this professor of MIT, I think. So he was saying that he doesn't think that AI is going to remove our jobs. And I agree that AI might not remove all the jobs or even the majority. So it's not going to remove the majority of the jobs. Some jobs are going to change, and we need to be aware. I was watching a movie, I think like a week ago. Terminator is a very old one. Terminator, the second one. Where is Jima? We were talking about that last night. So, I mean, you watch the movie and you are like, wow, it's scary. Because at one point, even a Terminator was kind of having feelings. Because he saved a woman who was maltreated by her husband, and then one of the main characters asked the Terminator, "Do you love her?" And he was like, "Well, it's not love like you human, but sometimes we give feelings to machines. We even give feelings to AI." My nephew, at one point, he was like, "No, because you know, AI is my friend." And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm your friend." "Yeah, but it's not the same." So I'm like, if it's not the same, I'm your friend, AI can't be your friend. So it's something else. Don't give him the same name you give me. Because if I'm your friend and AI is not the same friend as I am, so it's not a friend. So maybe we are projecting our own fears on what is not. AI doesn't have feelings. AI doesn't think, doesn't give advice. AI put words. AI give answers to what you think could be a good answer. I remember in secondary school, we were doing some programming. So then we did a code which says, "Bonjour Marie," when you open your computer. And I did it myself. So when I opened my computer, it would say, "Bonjour Marie." I was so excited about that because it was like the first time that you put on your computer and it says your name. And I was like, wow, the computer recognized me. No, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. So AI is not like giving us words, comfort words when you are tired and putting love in your life when you are missing it. No, it's programming, it's algorithm. So we are still going to have our work. Maybe jobs will change, but the work meaning doing something useful for humanity is still going to be there. So no issue about that. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think it's not going to change. Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
Dr. Murray. Thank you, Dr. Murray. I mean, you are reassuring us that human beings are not going to be extinct. But I would like to ask Yoshini to build on that, and some of the compliance and governance issues that you think we face around the change that Dr. Murray spoke about. Work jobs might be different. Are you in your experience facing that in any way in Absa, Mauritius? The fact that you have to look at changing roles, some tasks being taken over by AI. Are you being challenged from a compliance perspective about any such issues?
Thank you, Dr. Malik and Dr. Mary. Do you know, the head of compliance, one of my jobs is to burst bubble. So I'm surprised I have to burst this bubble as well. Not that I'm pessimistic, but I think on the practical part is where it hits us. I'm with you when you say the job or the work will not definitely, huh? But there are two sides to it. When you are in a bank and you have this pressure of delivering an excellent customer experience, the next that comes to it is you have to become efficient and you have to reduce costs. And I don't know whether it's a perception, but it is like you reduce costs through AI. You know, think about in the boardroom, think about any matter that you're speaking about. They will say, can't you use AI to do that? That's the first question now in the morning. Can't you do AI to do that? So that perception, Dr. Mary, is getting more and more and forcing people to think whether what I'm doing today can be done by me or can be done by a robot. I think in the past 5 years, we've employed so many robots in Absa, and it's there, and they have names, Robin, whatever it is. I'll name one Dr. Mary soon. But what they are doing, and this is where I think we are very responsible as an employer, is what they are doing is the mundane tasks that I think can be done by AI. They are not here to eliminate what your judgment can bring on the table, but they are definitely there to eliminate, for example, in the compliance space, a lot of false positive when you do alerts monitoring, fraud monitoring, and all that. But they also help you because we are in the assessing our customers more on their behaviors. Using AI does give you a certain pattern. So there's this cohabitation between AI and the human being. But I think what for me is something that is coming on and on is when you want to hire and you come with a strategy of having more people in your department, the first question is, how many can you eliminate by AI? So I think that question gets asked over and over again. And whilst you fundamentally believe that this needs to be done by a human being, sometimes you're forced at looking at whether using AI will first reduce the cost and will then bring efficiency. To which I always say, are you reducing the cost or are you shifting the cost? Because what will happen is today you're using AI, and tomorrow you might need to employ a human being to teach this AI again. Do you know what I mean? So I think we need to be more responsible when we're looking at the perception of can this be done by AI to truly think about the future impact of it. The next thing that I wanna comment on is this over reliance on AI. When you wake up in the morning, you need to write something and you say, "Let me open Copilot." Why? Why? I mean, yes, the co-pilot, I don't know whether he's a she or a he. For me, it's a she. She can come up with perhaps better words, but you have this. So the other thing that should come is, are we tapping the human potential? Are we doing enough? As much as we're doing conferences on AI, are we doing conferences on really putting out the importance of the human potential? What can a human being do? What we're doing today is we're giving a lot of attention to AI, which we should. But then the flip of the coin is let's talk about the human being. Let's talk about the human mind. Let's talk about how much the human mind can do. And then bring a balance between the reliance on AI and the potential that you have as a person. Like you said, you're the one who taught AI to call you Mary, right? You could have put Brad Pitt or whatever. And that's the thing, we seem to be over relying on AI. So from a practical perspective, it's happening. I'm challenging it. So I say they say it's compliance with AI. I say it's AI with compliance. I'll come and see whether you are complying. And I said it yesterday with my colleague. He was challenging me as to whether I will still stay in the market. I would, if I am asking myself the right questions today. If I am, for example, upskilling myself with the right level of AI, but also what does your employer wants to see? They want to see the value add that you're bringing. And if you can show the value add that you're bringing, with or without AI, this is where they will look at you. But Dr. Mary, I'm not that optimistic because of the perception around let's replace the maximum, obviously to reduce costs. But I think the reflection that I want to leave with you is, are we reducing costs or are we shifting costs?
That's a wonderful one. That's a wonderful one. Are we shifting? I think that.
Minute, Dr. Malik?
Yes.
I have it's not an answer, it's just a comment. Because
yes,
as Shini was talking about the question, and I was like, should the question, maybe I'm being philosophical, should the question be, what can human being do
Are we here to do, or are we just here? Am I because I'm doing, or am I just because I am a human being? I mean, why should the reflection in companies be, how can we reduce the cost by taking out human beings and putting machine? I don't think that should be our reflection. Because if the reflection is like that, at one point we say, well, maybe it's better not to get married to a human being because it's less issue. AI, you put what you have to put, and you are happy. But I don't think you marry someone for what he's going to do. It's just that.
It's a very, very thought-provoking point.
The Michael's not happy with your marriage comment. Not at all.
Yeah, I would like to build on.
We are in a materialistic view of humanity. And if we continue, of course, machine will be able to do more than us. Yes, the car is faster than me. But should I be crying because the car is faster than me? What is the point of creating a company to do what? Peter Drucker, guru management, will say that the aim of a company is to make clients happy. What's the aim of Absa? What do you want? I want to make clients happy. How am I going to make clients happy? By having machines. When you have customer service with machines, you know. It's like you talk in a language and you answer in another language. And of course, it will improve. At one point, it will be so perfect. But do we want perfection in life? What does it mean, perfection? Sometimes it's like we are having a discourse which is not human in itself. It's like we are human and we want to be more than human, superhuman. Okay, we will have superheroes, superhumans, and what else? So maybe companies should also see the strategy behind what they are doing. If it's about money and money and money, at one point, ethics will go beyond AI. It will be another issue. Because AI is just something, it's just a tool. For me, it's just a tool. So if we are not ethical about using that tool, we might not be ethical about many other things. And the company will have much more problems than just not using AI correctly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murray. Just building on that and probably provoking further, building on the point that you made, and I'll direct it to Laura to kick off the response, is to say, but you know, naturally in business, I'm provoking. We business is an enterprise. We need to make profit to make sure we can pay salaries, to make sure we are growing. How do you reconcile that with what you've just said, which I agree with? But how do we embed ethics into that logic that we have today, the value system in the corporate world, for example, that says we're here to make profit? Laura?
Yes, I would say this is the biggest probably ethical dilemma that we are working with corporate right now. Because companies will have this want to make client happy, but the ultimate want of a company would be to make profit. Any company, this is how corporate works. This is how this society works. And we will make profit no matter what. And this is where danger comes, and this is where ethics becomes endangered, because it doesn't matter if people are losing their jobs, because we are getting robots doing one robot's replacing 5 people. I don't have to pay for the salary, I don't have to pay for health insurance, I don't have to make sure that they have their lunch break, I don't have to make sure that they have mental health person in the building. It's just a robot doing the work of 5 people. I'm getting more money, and that's why billionaires today are the heads of tech companies. And this is where we are going probably wrong in a way, because we are going right with evolving, we are bringing in AI, we're bringing in tech. 50 years ago, when we changed to more than 50 years ago now, I'm still stuck in the 2010s. When we moved to the industrialization, there was this fear as well of we're not gonna be working, there's gonna be machines doing everything. But then it shifted and people started to do other jobs. I have my little brother today doing, my little nephews and cousins doing jobs that I've never heard about when I was start studying at university, and I'm not that old. So imagine they are having new things coming up every year. So we are adapting to AI and we are adapting to technology, and this is going very fast. And the wrong thing or the most difficult thing is that ethics and values are not moving as fast, because this is human, right? These are values that we have, the culture that we have, and culture doesn't move in a 1 second pace. And this is why these discussions are important, and this is why we have to bring all the people in from academia, from corporate, from civil society, to be able to brainstorm and see how are we going to, yes, keep AI in the loop, yes, be tech driven, yes, wanting to build more profit for companies, but how do we ensure that the population, that the people receiving, whether they're clients or they're people working for us, are still aligned with the ethics and values that the society has? Working with companies, with corporate companies in Mauritius itself, one of our job at Transparency Mauritius is to have trainings on ethics. And we come very often in rooms like this with people from all departments in the companies. And I start by talking about what is ethics, about the different philosophical things of ethics. And I look at the faces in front of me, and either those people, or whether I'm very boring talking about this, or they just had an opportunity not to be at the office today and just be on their phones and scrolling Instagram while I'm talking about the virtue ethics of Aristotle. And this because it's no more important to them. And again, I come back to the education. It seems like it's not important to think about the ethics, or not important to think about the values, and just go on about our work. As long as my job is being done, my work is being completed, I don't have any thoughts about whether I'm being ethical, if ever I'm going to be following the values of my company or anything. We had a very interesting session 2 weeks ago with accountants and auditors who are ACCA accredited accountants. And when I asked them, have you read your code of ethics? None of them raised their hands. And we have professionals that have been working for 10 years, 15 years in this sector that has not once opened their code of ethics. Some even didn't know there was a code of ethics. And this is and for me, a danger for the company, because you have people working, not thinking about what values they have to bring in, what the ethics they have to bring in. So there's a lot of thoughts to talk about ethics and governance. How do we bring ethics and governance? Well, it starts at the top with the leadership, because very often we would have CEOs, managers, board directors who don't feel the value of having ethics in the conversation, of having values here. The most important thing will be profit, will be to make the company bigger, will be to see whether we're doing better than other companies. And it has to start from this top. But there's also this work to be done on education with children, with the youngsters that we are training, that are going to school, that are getting very amazing certification right now, who are doing degrees, and after degrees, postgraduates, masters, and collecting certificates, basically, and not being able to be taught what is ethics and what's values and why it's important. It's not just telling them what it is why is it important? Why do we have to keep that humanity? Something that Yoshin said earlier that strikes me is how AI helps, and we want to see what can AI do that would ease our life. And when technology was developed, it was meant to help human beings. It wasn't meant to replace. It was meant to make less errors. It was meant for us to be more productive with technology. But at some point, this shifted to become as if the tech takes precedence and now becomes the most important thing. and they are the one, when AI came up, suddenly AI takes decision in your place, and the human factor becomes secondary. And this has to change. We have to be very careful. And again, coming at, we should take our place in our job, in our society, as a human being, as a parent, as somebody who's just out there with people looking at you. So how are you going to bring that humanity first and use that technology as a supplement, as a help, and not as the main thing of taking decision and forgetting completely the human part?
Thank you, Laura. It's a very interesting topic. There's some feeds on the chat feed. Some of the messages there. It's about people's good and well-being. Very, very strong topic. Neil Eckles is talking there about the fact that at the moment it's been knowledge workers are the ones who've always been safe from capital. Very interesting. Another provocation is assuming that we now have AI, we're using AI, it's part of our workspace in an organization. I always wonder about when we're actually using AI, our staff are using AI, or we're using AI in terms of how we serve our customers. How does bias and discrimination come in? So I, as a human being, have a certain bias, and now I'm inputting that into AI. What kind of ethical and governance questions does that bring about? Dr. Marie, my bias, the risks that come with my personal bias in my use of AI in the working place.
So governance issues, if I understand well the question. Okay, which bias? Well, I think we have been talking about that for the whole day, yesterday, today. What else can we add? I mean, I don't see anything new that we could add except what we said already. So for me, it's more about knowing why we are using AI. So if we know why we are using, I mean, all these questions about biases, all technologies, you first use it with some kind of biases, and then you correct them, and then you move on, and so on and so forth. So you just need to know why you are using it. That's why I was talking first about strategy. So if we have a strategy, of course, we will be able to cover the biases, and we will be able to kind of govern the use of AI, because AI is a mean. As someone was saying, sometimes we see it as an end in itself, but it's still a mean. Or at this point, it's a mean. So we could use some ethical governing means to control how we use AI in our companies, in our institutions, and we should be able to kind of cover or kind of help these biases not become general. I don't know if the other panelists want to add something, because I mean, we have been talking about AI so much that I'm sure I will be dreaming about AI today.
Thanks, Dr. Murray. Yoshini, from a compliance perspective, any thoughts around the biases and discriminations that we bring into the workplace and how we manage those from a governance perspective?
I think it's important we set, obviously from a compliance perspective, the basic rules, but we're talking about AI having biases, but I think human beings are the ones who set those biases. So we're talking about the dangers of AI having biases, but I think let's refocus about human beings having those biases. So when you wake up in the morning, you don't even know that you're having a certain bias. So how do you regulate yourself? Is also the question. But Dr. Malik, to your point, in Absa, and I'm talking practically here, we do have a responsible use of AI policy, which we've put in place and driving the necessary awareness when you're using AI and what kind of biases you might be using with the AI system. So with the embedment of the policy, we also do certain tests. Now in the banking, it's fairly easy. You need to be a bank for all. So basically, then you have those matrix where you measure whether we are including a certain type of biases. That's for our customers. For our employees, we make sure that if we are hiring, our vacancy or the application is gender neutral, for example. So we do not put words like, we favor as many women to apply as men. So we make sure that, we eliminate that bias, even if we're using AI there. And I think it's also on a day-to-day responsibility. I think if by yourself I think we should, in fact, have an AI telling us you're having a bias right now. I think that would help. But I've seen what I'm seeing currently is challenging AI to kind of become more responsible while you're using it. You know what I mean? So yes, we don't have, like you said, pay health insurance and all that, but let me remind you, when this bot is not working, there's a sudden, everything stops. So I think it's important that we take a step back and not overkill AI as well, saying that they have lots of biases. So I'm passionate about human beings. I'm passionate about the study of human beings and what human beings can do. And I think it starts with the human being, how you look at it, what kind of biases you are putting into the system. But Dr. Malik, I think having the ethical boundaries and the governance, like in Absa, like I said, the policy, the monitoring that we do and the auditing that we do, I think it then helps to ensure that you can't eliminate biases, and you would agree with me, Dr. Malik, this is how we are, I would say, conceived, but we can reduce it or mitigate it when it's happening. We can then, when we see it, then eliminate it perhaps. Did I answer your question, Dr. Malik?
Thank you, Shini. Thank you. I'm going to continue that topic of bias and discrimination and provoke Laura and say, do we have a new index to add to the Transparency International Index that is bias and discrimination at work through the use of AI? What are your thoughts on that? Do you see that as something that could end up being a serious side effect of the use of AI?
We are actually studying that at the moment, especially for Transparency International's work on anti-corruption, because this is our main line of work, is fighting corruption. And we've seen with new technologies with AI, new forms of corruption that are still being studied, that we don't completely understand. We've seen financial crimes change due to AI. We've seen new pathways of financial crimes, of illicit financial flows, using AI, using technology, and these are threats that exist. And I wouldn't say it's AI, again, the problem. I would say it's people using those technology to commit crimes. If I can come back maybe to the AI and the bias of the AI, for me, that would be, in a weird way of saying this, the positive thing. Why? Because it shows you that you can't remove human completely from the equation. So this fear of having AI replace people completely, we can't have it, because again, there are biases, there's discrimination through AI. AI is just something, again, we give it a function or we give it a command and they're going to answer. So we would need to have that human input or that human check and balance at the end to be able to make sure that there hasn't been any bias or that the command has been input correctly, and if not, that has to be changed. So there's always going to be a human element to this that needs to be upheld, and this changes the discourse of, oh, we completely being replaced by machines. We cannot. It shows that we cannot put machines everywhere and then just suddenly stop working, even though it could be, everybody here would be at the seaside instead of being here and would let robots do the job. But we see that we need to commit to them. And even though we have that technology coming up and it's getting better and faster and everything, it still needs that human touch and that human being to be there to input the command or to change or to check and balance the AI and the technology that's happening. But in another discussion, and that would take another hour if we talk about AI and crimes, AI and financial crimes, AI and corruption. This is something we are looking at international level in Mauritius as well, because we've seen now when we talk about financial crimes, it's completely transnational. And if you look at our newspapers right now, you would see that we have a very, very important case happening in Mauritius coming from Madagascar, and that person has been involved in financial crimes all over the globe, allegedly. And so we have to make sure that we can counter those types of crimes, that we can have this also empowerment with companies, with people, not to do crimes with technology. So it comes back to the conscience of people, and that's why ethics is in the discussion, because we get back to that conscience. How are you using the tools that you have? What are you doing with it? Are you contributing to your company? Are you contributing to the society? Are you using it in a way to make the world better, or using it just because it's meant for you to do something wrong? It's a mean for you to get more money, to be corrupted, etc. So it comes back again to the conscience of the person. So the problem, and I would say it again, will not be the technology in itself. It will be the people behind it, the people using it. And so at the end of it becomes, it stays a human problem that we have and still have to continue to try and sensitize and empower people to do better.
Thank you, Laura. So the issue of the conscience, I think all the panelists are always coming back to the point that it depends on us as human beings. Is the speaking about the conscience. So very much so, it says that our value system is still the best defense against what we see as the fears of the advent of AI. Dr. Marie, what is it that the education system can do to help skill properly those workers that are already in organizations and those who are future job seekers in organizations? How can we embed this issue of conscience and ethics, and so that we make sure we have a workplace where people have that what I call a defense kit?
If I can come in there, Dr. Magik, I'm so sorry to interrupt. And thank you for the thought-provoking question. But because of time, I'm going to ask that we carry this conversation at another time, if you don't mind. Thank you, Dr. Marie. Please keep your thoughts. And
you are the master. You are the master of ceremonies. We'll follow your direction. I have to thank the panelists. They've definitely addressed the issue of workplace. I don't think we can conclude on it, as it's something that is evolving. Technology is evolving. There are a lot of uncertainties around AI, but I certainly think the panelists have left us with a lot of things to think about when we consider AI in the workplace. I thank you.
Indeed, thank you so much, Dr. Marie. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate all of those thoughts. Indeed, the panel has left us a lot to think about. Specifically, all of those who are wedding rings, and they're now thinking if they should changing their spouse, but that's another here nor there. Thank you very much, everyone. From time to time, we take pictures and want to share how what the conference was. I just want to alert you to a Slido that we have on your conference program. So if you want to just scan that and post whatever pictures you've taken, please by all means, you may do that. And I want to just alert you that we're moving the program slightly ahead. The next session is beginning at 10 past, it's supposed to begin at 10 past 11, and will carry all the way through to 11:55. And then we will have our last session before we start having vote of thanks and so forth. So that means that lunch is going to move a little bit forward. See some heads nodding. Okay, that's a good thing. Good later.
So the lunch will be at 1:30.
Our first one.
And also we're moving the afternoon panels.
Okay. So we're moving the afternoon panels. Okay. Just hang in there, people. Hang in there. We will get to lunch. So at conferences like these, you always get asked the dreaded question, so what? We had a conference for 3 days, had a conference today for 2 days. So what was the outcome? I'm happy to share that we've got these two wonderful publications as outlets to all our endeavors and our work. One is the African Journal of Business Ethics, where good papers have been put there for publication. And they go through a rigorous scientific review process, and all of those papers that get through, they get published. And for our conferences, we have our conference proceedings, and we're working very, very hard to ensure that good quality papers are put and published in this particular document. And what we're aiming for this year is to ensure that we meet all the criteria for de-editions. From South Africa, and understand what I'm talking about. We've met a number of boxes of the DHEC in terms of getting our output or conference proceedings accredited with them. We just need the last one where they say you need 60% of the conference papers to come from different authors and sources, not just one from one university or one institution. And I think this year we might just get it. So fingers crossed. If you want to see, I'm passing these around. Please take a good look at these outlets. They're really high quality documents, and just have a look at what question. So it's also on the website, yes. So ladies and gentlemen, it's now my pleasure and privilege to introduce the next item on our program, and that's a social dialogue with the theme Civil Society and its practical reflections of innovative technologies. And I invite our dear colleague and moderator, Mr. Scarlett, to handle this panel. Raise a hand, is it virtual or is it live? So it's a friend or is it a foe? Okay, please go ahead. You're on mute. Is it Paul? Okay, Paul, I have recognized you. Thank you. Can I hand over to Scarlett?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And I really have to say that I don't think there's a more beautiful place to be talking about all these existential questions that we looked at the last couple of days. So it's fantastic to be here. Could I also ask my panel members, Laura and Brian, to come down, who are joining us here in person. And of course, we also have some participation online. And I think it's really interesting to see that over the last 1.5 days now, there's a lot of discussion from the private sector perspective about what is already being done, how they're using AI, how AI will be used in future, and the responsibility, as well as a call to governments in terms of regulation, need of regulation. But I think what we've been missing so far is really the question of what's the role in civil society in all of this? How are they? All right, well, I think this is a staple for each panel. I think it's not a real panel here today if we don't have at least one mic drop moment. So yeah, the question of how is civil society being affected by AI, but also, and perhaps more importantly, how is civil society using AI in their work to strengthen their work and the potential risks as well as benefits, and kind of really delving into that space. And I think in a way, following from that sort of underlying discussions that we've had now for the last day or so about how do we leverage the potential benefit of tech without losing our humanity, losing trust in each other and in society. And I mean, I might be a little bit biased, but I think at least part of the answer I have here on the panel with me, and that is civil society. Because civil society in many ways represents a social conscience. We've had a lot, the term we need to, but who's we? Me as an individual, I'm not going to be able to have an impact. but civil society really takes that role. And there's a reason why in autocratic systems and countries, it's the first to go. When it comes to media and civil society, is the first to go because it really reflects also the power of the people, the social conscience being kind of captured in that way and responded and really working towards holding people in power accountable. So I'm really excited to have a mix of civil society and also academia here with me. So Laura is back, everyone. So great to have her with us again to give us the TI Mauritius or TI perspective. Luckily, and this is very easy, Dr. Brian doesn't need any introduction, I think, at this point. But with us, who haven't joined us before, is Carolyn, who is here with us from Good Governance Africa, as well as, Good Governance Academy, and Chrissy Doob from Good Governance Africa. Sorry, very close, very similar, and both joining us from South Africa. So I'd like to start the panel by giving a little bit of an opportunity for reflection on the discussions of the last 2 days and ask you from your perspective, from civil society's perspective and academia, what is sort of one key takeaway that you've taken from these discussions around innovative technologies that's going to affect the way your organization is going to be using it in future? Whether it's a tool, whether it's an approach, maybe even a risk that's been outlined here. What are you really taking away from these discussions, and how are you thinking that's going to apply to your work? So maybe I'll just start off handing it over to Laura, to Brian, and then over to Carolyn and Chrissy.
Just so we didn't cut mid talking. And so it has been, like I said, very interesting to hear all of the panelists yesterday. I've missed part of it in the morning, but it's in the afternoon and then this morning as well. Because it's interesting to see the point of view of different people from different backgrounds and different sectors as well, especially when you're from civil society, because we are the ones working with very little amount of resources and trying to get the most impact. And because again, we work for a mission, and the biggest mission that we want to have is to be able to change society, to change it. So yes, to change minds and change of culture. And this is an over-ambitious objective that we have. And again, with very, very limited resources. When I think of the companies that are here today, and I think about our small office that we have in Port Louis here with about 7 to 10 people working all over the island, it shows the commitment of the organization, but it shows you also how limited resources we have. And hearing about how AI can be a tool for optimization, for boosting productivity, how to use it as a tool effectively, it's an interesting discussion. It's also important, and I think that was what touched me the most, was the fear that we all actually have about tech and AI, and are our fears legitimate, or are we just being very dramatic about it, or is it something that we have to think about, especially when we talk about civil society, and not only in how we operate as an organization, but is our message changing, evolving with AI and with technology? So I think that was the key takeaways that we are going to think about. And like I said a bit earlier today, especially in our sphere of anti-corruption and anti-financial crime, we see technology being used as an amazing tool to ease the way of criminals. So how are we going to use technology in another way to increase advocacy, to increase empowerment, to make sure that we can go against those criminal activities?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Scarlett. Carolyn, Chrissy, I'm sorry you're not with us. It's a beautiful day. I'll be on the beach a bit later on and I'll think of you. Laura, I think you sort of almost touched on that paradox that's actually there with innovative technologies, and I think that's been my takeaway. I actually wonder whether we got the title of our conference wrong. We said friend or foe, expecting there to be a choice between the two, and I think it came through very strongly with some of the discussions For example, around cybercrime, that cybercrime is facilitated by all these new technologies we have. However, we can use that same technology to identify and to try to mitigate that kind of risk. So I think it's almost that friend and foe, and we need to be very aware of the incredible benefits there are, but also the risks. But I wonder if you can give me just a moment to do a bit of reflection on innovative technologies from the past and how it's impacted us as a civil society organization. And that's really around the transition towards virtual and hybrid communication. So Ben Africa has always been constrained by limited resources. We unfortunately can't fly everyone to our conferences every year. So how do we try to get people into the room to have these conversations around business ethics? And that's what we're all about. So when COVID struck in 2000, we immediately went virtual with our conference, and it was an incredibly successful conference, and probably one of the few that did that. Following year, we had a hybrid conference in Swakopmund in Namibia, and I think that we were the first really African organization to put a conference on at that scale in hybrid format. And there were lots of mistakes, a lot of laughter and jokes and fun around it, but it was a hell of a challenge, but we did it. And that opened the organization up to suddenly so many more people. So we decided to keep with the hybrid format so that we are able to be an inclusive organization and that we can grow the organization. So it's worked so well, and we'll keep the conferences hybrid going forward. We've also really embraced webinars, and we were fortunate to partner with Good Governance Academy, and we did some webinars earlier this year, and a couple, I think we've had 6 webinars this year, which is quite significant. And with partnering with Good Governance Academy, suddenly we reached a whole different audience. So it's had amazing benefits. We put together last year, it was a 3-year project called the Global Survey of Business Ethics. It's a survey on teaching and learning in that sphere. We could never have done it without the ability to communicate that we got now. I remember us having MS Teams meetings, their Zoom, it was over 100 people from all around the world. It's quite phenomenal. So those innovative technologies, I'm not sure where the AI is going to fit in and other emerging technologies, but we need to identify that where they benefit.
Super, thank you so much already diving into sort of the practicalities and sort of realities for a lot of civil society organizations. I'm happy to hand over to Carolyn for your reflections on the space, on the experience of your organization. Over to you.
Great, thanks so much. Am I audible? All good? Great, thank you. I really just want to make 2 points. First of all, on the back of what Brian was saying now, perhaps just to start positioning at the Good Governance Academy, we really work across boardrooms and classrooms and communities, but throughout that, I think our one message is clear that civil society must move from the periphery to the center of governance in this digital age, and we can use the digitalization to help us do that. So today, we're no longer just talking about innovation, we're actually living it. As Brian said, using these technologies and artificial intelligence, blockchain, predictive analytics really are shaping the decisions that affect not only us in civil society, but actually every citizen. So who decides the boundaries and who ensures that innovation serves society, not just efficiency or profit? And too often, these decisions are left to technologists and perhaps even policymakers without the ethical foresight that civil society brings, and that must change. We need participatory governance, not technocratic governance. And we see that happening, you know, the technocrat, the tech brews, right, with tech bros in the US. And this participatory governance from a civil society perspective brings context and conscience and consequence. And those are important factors for us in this digital era. So at the Good Governance Academy, we have embedded this thinking into our global frameworks and using global frameworks like ISO 37000 and in our dialogues, in our webinars, as Brian mentioned, across Africa. Whenever we include civil society early, we do see a stronger accountability in decision making, but also richer perspectives and more enduring societal trust. So just on this point, I'd like to leave you with these kinds of thoughts. If we exclude civil society, we exclude wisdom. And if we exclude empathy, we exclude legitimacy. So just thinking about those points when we think about the tech bros in the US, if we exclude civil society, we're excluding wisdom. And if we exclude empathy, we are excluding legitimacy. So civil society is not a stakeholder to be consulted, but rather a partner in this governance. And only through this partnership can we build a digital future that is not just smart, but is actually just. So how do we do that? And just moving into my second point about empowering communities through this now, if we forge that digital transparency and oversight. So in this era, we do have extraordinary tools and I use them and Brian says, you know, we use them, but these tools are only as powerful as the hands that hold them. So technology like blockchain, open data platforms and AI auditing tools can really make transparency real. They can track budgets, they trace procurement, they expose conflicts of interest, all in real time. And we had a recent webinar on that about the city of Burbank. And please go and have a look at our website for that. But if only governments or corporates control that data, then transparency becomes performance and not societal participation. So civil society must have access and the ability to use these tools meaningfully. And that was our partnership, our collaboration with Partnerships for Transparency. So I'll share an example. In Kenya, local organizations used an open source tracking tool that follow municipal funds allocated for water projects. And when the boreholes failed, the community already had the data. They could hold local authorities accountable, but not with anger, but actually with evidence. So that's the future we must design, where civic technology strengthens oversight and not just suspicion. So it really can give us the tools to be able to engage in the conversation rather than throw stones. So at the Good Governance Academy, we are exploring how this approach specifically could transform water governance in Africa. Now, we don't veer into the space of Good Governance Africa. So Chrissy will tell you about what they do. But really what we do is shine lights through our webinars. And we're doing that next year through a series of 3 webinars with NEPAD. And really trying to set the scene with these discussions is just imagine if communities everywhere could see how resources flow and be able to act with information and data when they don't, not act with suspicion and anger. So civic tech, can we call it that, is not a luxury. It's actually a necessity for building that trust. When citizens can see the system, they can believe in it. And when they can't, governance really collapses into doubt and suspicion. So digital transparency needs to be usable, local, and inclusive. And only then can technology and all of these new innovations and disruptive technologies really serve democracy. So those are the 2 points I'd really like to leave the conversation with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I really like the term civic tech. and this notion of moving civil society from the peripheral into the center to really be an integral part of all of this, not just the discussion, but also the implementation. So moving swiftly on to Chrissy, we look forward to your input, and as Caroline already said, to give us a bit of an idea of how Good Governance Africa is leading on this topic. Over to you.
Thank you, and I'd just like to thank Scarlett, our moderator, and the panel for setting the tone, and just want to echo on their sentiments. But I think firstly, if I could differentiate Good Governance Africa from the Good Governance Academy, which is, one of our trusted partners, the difference is that we are a governance organization focused on trying to build a capable state, at the same time advocating for active citizenry. So can we achieve African states that are transparent, accountable, leading with integrity, from not only the political but the economic perspective, both in the public and the private sectors, and at the same time have active citizenry, where we have citizens that are able to hold their governments to account, citizens that understand that their democratic right is not practiced only once every 5 years by casting a ballot, but through every day engaging with government, whether it's at the local level, on are they doing what they said they would? Are they fulfilling their promises that they made in their manifestos? So that's basically the work that we do at Good Governance Africa in a nutshell. And I think just drawing back to your question, Scarlett, one of the major takeaways for us at Good Governance Africa is that we understand that now data and digital tools are now an indispensable lever for strengthening transparency and citizen-faced accountability. But they are only as good as the policy environment and the inclusion strategies that sit around them. And I think Caroline echoed on the hands that are using the tools. So I think that we believe that there needs to be a conducive policy environment supported by ideal strategies. In practice, this means investing in interoperable data platforms and indexes so that not only governments but civil society and citizens can compare performance across sectors, and also at the same time investing in parameters and local capacity and protections so that the data is not misused, weaponized, or left unused by those that need it the most. And I believe that this dual lesson of the opportunity combined with the agent guardrails will shape how we scale our governance analytics and public-facing data products at Good Governance Africa going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And maybe before we also open up to everybody to maybe add to some of one or two sort of comments on their key takeaways, especially for the ones who are involved in civil society or engaging with civil society. But before, I wanted to add on to the important role of civil society in terms of also social capital and the way civil society is being perceived. And that has actually already taken a pretty significant role in the whole development of AI, in the fact that OpenAI was originally designed to be nonprofit as a subset of civil society. So actually, when we're talking about this, no longer the case, as of I think 2 weeks ago, when they decided to have a for-profit part all of a sudden and a nonprofit part, but they definitely leveraged the social capital of civil society, of saying we're doing this for the good of everyone, for the benefit of society. I feel like they're listening in and they're cutting this off. They're everywhere. But once, really, also benefiting from the fact that there was less scrutiny on an organization that is non-profit and an organization that is working for the benefit of everyone, same also from a regulation standpoint, so benefiting to now becoming a for-profit company or becoming billionaires within 2 days of that. So I think it also shows, the importance of social capital, of civil society, but also how that can be abused, and that's why we need really strong voices when it comes to that as well. So I just wanted to see, are there one or two sort of comments in terms of key takeaway of civil society as an important stakeholder in the discussion, or takeaway in terms of what you're looking forward to introducing in your organizations based on the discussions we're having? Yes, here in the front. Preferably not in French, if possible. Or you can have it.
Thank you. I will try English, and I will apologize for not a correct English. I'm happy to hear that the civil society are involved in this issue. Just want to propose something. When we want to achieve anything in our society, we have to understand we have to think about the impact, psychological impact. It's important to think and to project, to think forward, to be proactive, to see the impact on the psychological and behavior of the people. And what I want to propose for AI and in Africa, I just propose for the organization to see AI as psychosocial mutation of Africa. That it will be a unique aspect, the unique perspective of AI. And it means that it will be important to bring people who are engaged in the field of psychosocial field, anthropologists, sociologists, and psychotherapists. Think about the matter, think forward. And for civil society, I think if we don't train people about the use of the new technology, it brings problems. I know the civil society, but for example, in Belgium, they are organization, no-profit organization, they are teaching people how to use Facebook. And it's important. I don't know if in Africa, one organization was teaching free, bring people how to use Facebook. Maybe there is small things that a small organization can implement. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And yes, there's one, potentially two, but yes, let's go with you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. It's Salad, thank you very much. I wanted to say that from what Caroline has said, that is very nice because she spoke about an open source technology that is used in Kenya to hold local government officials accountable with the use of money. So I think that is important. So I think we need to, beyond talking, we need to have practical tools and frameworks on the ground that ordinary people are able to use, that are user-friendly. Because I'm going to accuse you and say, we are always talking at this conference, we're always talking, but nothing comes out of it. It becomes what they call the talk shops. I think that is a very first important point I want to make. The second and last point I want to make, it relates actually to the last panel, where they spoke a lot about AI, about the skills of young people. In Africa, in South Africa, where I come from, young people are not employed, and we are always, as Africans, we're always talking about the ethics of Ubuntu. But the people that we are supposed to be teaching the ethics of Ubuntu, the African ethos, they are not here in this room. You know, they are making the programming somewhere in the United States, somewhere in China, somewhere in Europe. And we keep complaining as Africans that our youth are not employed. You know, but when we start talking about AI, we start talking about God. I'll always say that Africa doesn't need any more theology. Africa needs technology. So we need to invite those companies to come to Africa. Amazon, OpenAI, you mentioned them, Google. We would like them to come and train our young people. Because Africans, you always talk, but we are always outside of the room. We now need to be inside the room and train our own young people into programming and those kind of things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think there was one more question, and then we'll close it off. But just to say, the comment on being more specific, we will have a round of examples following up from this. Just one final comment over here.
Thank you. Yeah, to touch on that, Jürgen Habermas also says that civil society is involved in the ciphering shared meanings through a democratically constructed process. So through conversation and dialogue like this, I think it does have a very good space. I've pulled up two old definitions for civil society from Dunn and Kligman. I'll sum it up as it entails the voluntary participation of individuals organized around formal and informal associations to serve the public interest, to serve the public goods. What then do you qualify as civil society, and how important are collaborative efforts between civil society organizations, not just NGOs, in advancing the public interest? Thank you.
Thank you. I love it. It's not exactly theology, but philosophy to follow up. And I'm happy to give maybe for the final comment or question to anybody on the panel who would reply in terms of definition of civil society and then role, and also then civil society and other stakeholders and how they can engage and how important that is in this discussion. I don't know, Brian or Laura?
I'll maybe have a go at it. You know, I heard the two perspectives around, you know, maybe going out there and teaching on Facebook and the unemployment issue. And Ugi, you almost came up with my view on it, is that you all of you are part of civil society, and that it's up to you to actually make that difference by either creating an organization such as one of these, or partnering and getting involved in volunteering in these kinds of organizations. That's what's needed. You can't expect the state to do it. We are the civil society. The state's not going to provide for all these organizations. So I think that one needs to take responsibility for this yourself.
When it comes to the role of civil society, especially in this discussion, I'll come to, you mentioned civil society and NGOs, and for Transparency International, for example, we are an NGO, a non-profit, and part of civil society. Because what we do at our level is we would take the message from the grassroots people, from the civilians, from children in schools, from the youth in universities, from all these people who doesn't technically have a voice to reach governance people, to reach decision makers, and we create that bridge. And by doing it, we give voice and importance and impact to what society actually wants. Now, there's also the necessity of having technology involved in this, because using technology, we are most of the time, and I think you would agree with me, very, very small in terms of resources. We have very little amount of people working with us. It's becoming more difficult to get volunteers to adhere to our missions, to our work. And having technology, having sometimes AI, helps us to amplify the voices that we are already bringing forward. So this is where it can help and where it makes our work, I won't say easier, but it will make our work have bigger impacts. And that's one of the good things about technology and AI coming up. There's also the threat sometimes when, especially I was talking about hiring in the beginning, in the previous panel, of sometimes having people join us and not, but without the passion and without this dream a bit of changing society, of changing mindset. And this now creates another problem because they would think that because we have technology and because we have all those tools, I'll just log in and create something and just have AI generate everything I have to work on, generate my speech or generate my PowerPoint, and then I don't have to work for the rest of the day. And I'll just sit and everything that was given to me is already been done. And we see that it loses impact because our message lose that human touch, that human message get lost. And then our job has less impact because when we are out with something completely 100% generated by technology, by AI, suddenly there's no more this connection to the civil people, to the civil society, to the people, the growth people that we are supposedly representing, that we have to represent, that's our job.